This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello and welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss the latest and greatest news in the world of sports. As always, I'm Alex.
I'm Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, I've been working with you for about an hour and a half now.
How's it going?
I mean, I don't think we asked each other about this question yet, but I'm doing quite well. You know, I had a nice little weekend, watched a lot of the Olympics, catched up on all the sports news, and I'm excited for this upcoming weekend because we have the official start of the Premier League again. So
I'm excited for this upcoming
I'll be
weekend.
in seventh heaven.
Oh, nice
on
show.
Saturday and Sunday.
I'm excited for this upcoming weekend because preseason football starts, and you know how I am with that. I'm just pretty excited.
I do. I know you're a big preseason guy.
Starts on Thursday.
Yeah, me not so much, but for me at least, we have the start of the Premier League season, which is we had the preseason put behind us already. So a lot of teams ending up their preseason this past weekend. So getting ready to go back and rolling with the Premier League. I'm so excited. So
all right, I'm happy to hear that, man.
Time to wake up early again on the weekends. It's like Manchester United plays on Sunday at 5:30. You gonna be awake?
Who are they playing again?
They're playing Bournemouth.
No,
they should beat them.
I'm not waking up for that.
Okay,
sorry. Hate to break it to you. Maybe I'll record it. I have that luxury, you know.
There you go. Yeah,
just won't go on Twitter because you live tweet.
I'm one of those guys that I cannot do that. Absolutely cannot do that for two reasons. One,
you have the urge to fast forward, don't you?
No. Obviously, I could just turn my notifications off, but my phone is going to give me updates every 5 minutes about anything that happens. So if there's a game going on, I get a halftime score, I get everything.
When I have apps that have that, like my MLB app for the Giants games, I only have game start and end game. I don't have score updates. I don't have inning updates or anything like that.
But like once
I have
know
breaking news, I think for Giants stuff. Like if Bruce Bochy went to the hospital yesterday, that was breaking news.
Yeah,
he was like lightheaded and wasn't feeling great. He's good now. He's been released.
If I know the score, I can't watch the game. Like
it's fair.
You know
I mean, yeah.
If I know the score, like I know that this guy's gonna catch a 12-yard touchdown pass in the next 2 plays. Like why watch it? So I can't really do that. And two, I could just say, okay, I'll turn everything off and then just catch up on the game. When I decide to watch it. Mm-hmm. But if I know that it's already happened, I just can't do it, man. I need to know.
Fair enough.
I'm just one of those guys that the only exception to that is when I watch wrestling pay-per-views, because sometimes they usually start around 5:00 for Pacific time, far time. Sometimes I either work or I don't get home right away, so I have to pick it up maybe a half hour in. And the way they do it is kind of like picture watching it. It's like live stream, so you can rewind it. So I'll rewind that first 15 to 20 minutes I get home later. And then I'll rewatch it from there. But then I can't look at my phone for the next 3 hours because my phone will tell me what's happening. So that kind of sucks. But other than that, that's about the only thing I really do that for is when I watch wrestling.
Okay.
But yeah, other than that, I can't do it. So if I'm awake and I watch it, great. But if not, then I just can't tape it and watch it again.
Okay, I understand that. I feel
just one of those guys.
Okay.
Anyways, moving on to the show. We have an action-packed show. Why don't we give everyone the rundown?
So we have some baseball news. We're talking A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, who is slated to play his last game in the MLB on Friday. Mark Teixeira, fellow Yankee, who has announced that he will be retiring following this season. And then we're going to actually move to football and talk about some notable camp battles, most likely. Specifically 3 battles going on currently in the NFL. And then we're going to do our world-famous What's Trending.
Yeah, we have a lot of trending stories featuring people like Dwayne Wade. We have the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I have Terrell Pryor.
Yeah.
I have Jinx.
You got to go. I can't talk.
Dang it, that's true. I have to say, I also have for What's Trending, I just had it a second ago. Brett Favre.
And he has been trending recently, just getting into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yes,
so.
sir. What else you got?
I have Chinese Olympics.
Okay.
I have Argentina golf.
Uh-huh.
I have quite a few.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the Olympics before we get started. That is what my fun fact of the day consists of.
You got to have that.
I actually have a two-parter because
Okay.
it's Olympic related. Both of these are Olympic facts. Do you know the first Olympic Games obviously were held in 1896?
Greece.
Right? Who won the most medals that year at 47?
What country?
What country?
I'm going to say Germany.
Host nation Greece. They won 47 medals that year.
Okay.
The most in the first Olympic Games. Now, this one's a little harder because it's not a well-known fact. Do you know what the 5 rings of the Olympic insignia represent?
I have heard it, but I can't remember it.
They represent the 5 major regions of the world. So it's Africa, the Americas, Asia, Europe, and the Oceania. And the cool thing about it is every national flag in the world includes one of the 5 colors in those rings, which are blue, yellow, black, green, and red.
Okay.
Obviously, think about America has red, white, and blue. They have 2 of those. Germany has yellow. They have black. They have red. They have 2 of those. They have all 3 of those colors.
Yeah, I was say they have
Belgium,
yellow,
same thing.
black, and red.
France, white, and blue. They have
And red.
blue in there. They have red in there. There's no white, obviously, but so yeah, it's like you're like no way, and they think about it. Yeah,
Kind of like how
Every
you said
flag
last
has
week,
it.
the quick brown fox jumped off a lazy dog with every letter.
exactly. You don't think about it, and then you're like no, and you go through it, and yeah, every one of them's there. It's crazy.
That's
right?
that's good. I didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah.
know that significance of
even
it.
even some of the flags that were like not national flags, but were brought to like say the Nazi party flag had red in it. Obviously, the Japanese rising sun flag had red in it. So it's it's hard. Those are pretty basic, straightforward colors that almost are represented in a lot of things. But fun fact of the day for you there, Ben. There you go.
I appreciate it, and I'm sure the listeners appreciate it as well.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. It's the Olympics are a weird thing. They didn't always used to do it they used to do it every 4 years, included. They used to not do it every 2 with the winter and the summer. They used to split it up differently. It was weird the way they used to do it back in. That was like up until 1994. They did it every 4 years. So there you go, man. Fun fact of the day for you folks out there.
Well, like I said, I appreciate it. So.
You're so welcome. I do it for you guys. I do it for the fans.
You the real MVP, Alex.
Thanks, Ben. Well, let's get started on our show, and let's get started with Alex Rodriguez. Speaking of my name, he is playing his final game on Friday. I believe it is a home game with the Yankees. I think it's against the Red Sox.
Yep.
If that's a game to do it, that's a game to do it. They should let Jason Varitek catch
Bring him back
honorably for that game so they can get another fist fight. But yes, his 22-year baseball career will end this Friday.
Yeah, they had a press conference Sunday morning. Did the Yankees and A-Rod to sort of,
Friday's
what
the
were you
Tampa Bay Rays.
Oh, they're playing the Rays. I thought they were playing the Red Sox, but
I thought they were too. I read.
I
something
think
about
I
today.
think the Yankees are having a series going on right now with them. So that's what I think I read. But they had a press conference Sunday morning to sort of announce this. His 22-year career, as you mentioned, he's still owed $21 million next year and about $7 million for the remainder of this year because he may not be playing anymore, but he's going to be still on with the Yankees organization as a special advisor. Not really sure exactly what that role
That's
entails.
an expensive special advisor, I'll tell you what.
Well, that's for sure, but not really sure exactly what that role entails. I think what he's going to be doing is sort of mentoring a lot of the younger players, especially a lot of the infielders, shortstops, third basemen. But I mean, it's not really yet confirmed what he's going to be doing. He also was doing a lot last year in the playoffs, a lot of TV work, a lot of radio work for like Fox and stuff. So maybe he still does a lot of that, but his final game will be Friday at Yankee Stadium. It's his final chance to include to his really sort of tampered but impressive resume, 696 career home runs, which is 4th in baseball history.
And we were right. They are currently starting a series with a 3-game series with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
The question was if A-Rod was going to see any time, any pinch hits or anything against these players and the Red Sox. They actually have his career numbers against all 4 of these upcoming pitchers too, including Chris Archer, who is the pitcher of the Rays, and he hasn't fared very well. Rick Porcello, who is going to be today's starter for the Sox, 3-22 in his career.
Not too
He has
good.
never faced Drew Pomeranz again, who's been pitching Wednesday. He has faced Stephen Wright 6 times. He's 1-5, and then Chris Archer, the second most faced in his career, is 2 for 15 against Chris Archer of the Rays, but both those hits were home runs, so he got lucky on a couple of those. But it was more so questioning whether or not he'll see time against the Sox. But the game on Friday is indeed against the Rays.
And it doesn't seem like he's going to get time in that Boston series. Mm-hmm. We do know he is going to be playing Friday. I would assume he would start like his last, hoorah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they would do this now, sort of in the, not really the middle of the season, but I would say before the third quarter mark, right before the third quarter mark, that they would do this now. I would assume they would do really just like what they did with Teixeira and announce his retirement at the end of the year. The Yankees, I feel like they're making kind of a mistake here. A-Rod hasn't been playing in the past month. He's 4 home runs away from 700. They could make a lot of money off him trying to chase that, milestone home run mark. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a real A-Rod fan or not, he has, tested positive for steroids. He's admitted it.
I don't like him.
No one really likes him. Whether he's a Hall of Famer or not, it's really up to the baseball writers and the way they've sort of handled people that have been in that steroid era hasn't really gone too well. So I would say that definitely doesn't look good for A-Rod right now in his stance to sort of make a Hall of Fame career. If you look at his stats, they're of course there, but you have the big question mark being steroids.
And his stats as of late have been awful.
He's also 41 years old though. So
I thought he should have retired before this year even started.
But I would say he should have retired at the end of the year, and the Yankees could try and make money off selling tickets of him trying to get to 700. Just play him. The Yankees don't really have a chance at the playoffs. Mathematically, they're still alive, but they're not doing really well. They were sellers at last week's trade deadline. They sold Aroldis Chapman, Andrew Miller, Carlos Beltran. Yeah. They might as well just play him, try and make money off him chasing 700 home runs, and then call it a day at the end of the year. I don't know why give him one last game for Friday and then call it a day now. So.
I mean, it could be something behind the scenes, too. Maybe he's hurt. Maybe he just doesn't think he can finish the whole season, And the thing that's at the same time, it's going to be a distraction. And no, they're not going to go anywhere, apparently, this season. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you can even look at the Rays game. They were swept the last time they faced the Rays. Those are games that, these are division games that they want to be winning. In AL games, they want to be winning. And in the division, the Rays are, Tampa Bay is lower than them. They are in last place in the AL East. They're 18 games behind Baltimore, who is in first place. And they're another 11 games behind the Yankees. But there's still games the Yankees want to win, And at the end of the day, do they want it to be the A-Rod show for the rest of the year? And yes, that might sell tickets. But as we talked about before the show even started, I don't think the Yankees ever really have issues with selling tickets. Yeah, people might not be there, but they're still making plenty of money.
Yeah, they're the most prolific baseball team ever.
Yeah.
So, that's what I would have done. But another guy who's making waves with the Yankees is Mark Teixeira. He announced just earlier in the week, last week, that he was going to be retiring at the end of the season at somewhat of a young age, still 36. You see baseball players sort of get up in their 40s a lot of times before they retire. So Teixeira, I think more so, he's had a great career, but I think more so it's sort of injury-related in this aspect. He does have some injuries that have been nagging on. He's had torn cartilage in his knee. He's had neck issues. He's not really having a good season this year. He's only got 10 home runs, and he's hitting just below 200. So definitely not having a great year, but he's shown in the past, he's obviously great with the glove, one of the best fielding first basemen, and really a dominant switch hitter that could hit home runs from either side of the plate, Teixeira.
Yeah, and he's a very emotional guy, too. He cried when he was telling the fans he was going to retire and everything. He's always been one to really be, about baseball, and he's, not emotional in a bad way. But, no, since, like you said, 2012, he's just been ruined by injuries. He's had, wrist problems, knee problems, hamstring, calf, back, shin, everything you can think of. And his knee is probably one of the worst things about him, and his neck, not to mention they both still need surgery to continue playing.
With the hitter, if you're trying to, and you don't have your knees,
and you don't have your neck either, you have a problem with your neck. Those are two things that are going to be, and your back, and all these things. These are not good things. He obviously had a great career at the start of his career at the Yankees, even though I always thought he was paid too much. $423.5 million that year. They put out to all their free agents that year, which is insane for you to think about. I thought they paid a little bit too much for him. He did play well initially, but yeah, the injuries just really derailed his career, and it's a shame to see. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, that happens.
It's part of the game.
It happens in all sports. So you were talking about Teixeira's money. throughout his playing career, he will have earned $213 million.
That's a pretty penny.
Yeah, it's obviously nothing like A-Rod did, but I mean, he's still going to be earning, more than enough to support his family throughout, even after his playing career is over. So Teixeira ends up, having a great career, really career. So he ends up hitting just over 400 home runs. He's currently at 404. I'm sure he'll eventually get a few more by the time the season ends. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes somewhere like 410. I'd say 415 at the most. So definitely a great career, over 400 home runs. He's got 1,282 RBIs, so there shouldn't really be an issue for him to reach 1,300 RBIs if he stays healthy and plays. So he's going to have a pretty good career.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
and
he's
really,
gonna have a pretty good, yeah.
Really one of those guys who's never been questioned in the whole steroid era, and a great fielder as well. I think that definitely helps him maybe in propelling for a Hall of Fame vote there.
I could see that. I mean, like we said, we don't know if he even is going to end up in the Hall of Fame, but it's definitely, something that could happen for him, at least in my opinion, I think it could.
Yeah, hitting 269 for a career right now. So definitely not bad, but not great. Still hitting under 300. Mm-hmm. But I think his ability to field and the Gold Gloves he's won will definitely help him. I think I'd say he's definitely on the fence. I'd say probably leaning in my opinion, though, especially in this day and age of the steroid era.
Yeah, maybe he's not going to get in right away. Maybe there's a little bit of a wait.
He might need to wait.
I could see him getting in there, yeah. I could see it, Ben.
I can too. I really do, for Teixeira.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I'm proud of myself, I guess, too. I'm not sure what I'm proud of and what you're referring to,
Ben,
but I appreciate it. I do believe in myself.
Good to hear.
Well, I hope you believe in yourself, too.
All right, break time.
I don't know where that went, but anyways.
Break time. So we're going to take our first break, and then we're going to talk football. We're going to talk about notable camp battles at the QB position between what we like to call the reigning champions, Denver Broncos. We're going to get into the 49ers a little bit, and one team that I'm going to make you wait and find out about. So we will be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts almost said football because we're talking football. Sports podcast with Ben and I. You guys don't go anywhere.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Jumping into some NFL news, talking quarterback camp battles recently after the Cleveland Browns announced that Robert Griffin III will be starting quarterback for the Browns. Really, we only have three teams now that are sort of unsettled at who's going to be leading them under center. We have the LA Rams just drafting Jared Goff in the first round out of Cal this year. But it looks like Case Keenum might be starting. Reports are that Jared Goff will not be starting week 1 in case Keenum will. So obviously they haven't made an official announcement.
That's the week 1 of the preseason.
Yeah, right. And obviously things can change. And then we have the Niners. We have the battle between Colin Kaepernick and the Blaine train, Blaine Gabbert.
Don't forget Jeff Driscoll.
Come on, are we even going to...
Don't forget Jeff Driscoll.
I'm not even going to mention him.
They are very high on him there. Chip Kelly loves the kid. He said he's like the perfect quarterback to play in his system.
Well, what is he going to say? He hates him?
I'm just letting you know, man. I'm just giving the fans what they want to hear, and that's Driscoll news.
And then I'd say really the most high-profile one and one with the most question marks surrounding it is the Denver Broncos. Should they go with Mark Sanchez or should they go with Trevor Siemian?
Yeah, and currently, as a matter of fact, this week, Sanchez and Siemian are both listed as co-starters, and Paxton Lynch, first-round pick of the Broncos this year, remains at the number 3 spot.
How do you have a co-starter?
They haven't decided on one yet, so they're both taking first-team reps. And as of right now, Sanchez will probably start the first preseason game. Simeon will probably start the second preseason game.
But how do you even go with that? It's like, co-starter.
That's very in the preseason. That's very common.
Come on.
That's how it is, and that's listed for that reason because that's how they need to go about putting them in games and
so
taking first team reps and all that.
So let's go sort of team by team here.
Okay.
Let's start with the Rams.
Okay.
So looks like Case Keenum will start the first preseason game. They just drafted Jared Goff, gave up a lot from the Titans to sort of make that trade to draft him from Cal. I would personally start Jared Goff. You give up a lot to get him. He's going to be the future of your franchise. I would say, I hate to put it this way, but sort of throw him to the Wolves and see what he's got. That's what I would do. What about you?
I say he's going to start week 1 of the regular season. I think they're being smart by starting Keenum maybe in the first game, and then from there, going from there in the sense of, okay, now we can start the prize jewel, I think that the first game, you have the first, actual game, if any kind of game action for a rookie, it's going to be tough at first, but I think it's probably better for him to go out there with the twos, get more playing time, and slowly get acclimated, I feel. I think it'll not slowly necessarily, but at least get the game speed, get what it is to be in an NFL game, regardless of the fact that it's an NFL preseason game. It is game speed that's a lot faster than he ever saw in college. I forget what quarterback said that, but he said, it was Colt McCoy when he was with the Browns, and they were playing the Steelers. And I don't know if you remember, it was Mohamed Massaquoi caught a pass, and James Harrison jumped through him, headbutted through him. And he said he's never seen a linebacker move that fast before. And James Harrison's by far not the fastest linebacker in the league. I would say that actually belongs to, not even then, I would say that actually belongs to Ryan Shazier, as a matter of fact, being the fastest linebacker in the league, in my opinion. But he, it's just a different game speed. And as of right now, Goff doesn't know that speed yet. So I think it's definitely smart for them to start Keenum. I think by the start of the regular season, though, it's going to be Goff.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the future of your team. You gave up a ton to get him. You really kind of got to see what he's got. You know what Case Keenum's going to do. He's been in the league a few years now. He's had his time with the Texans, with the Rams. I think you got to sort of put Goff out there and see what the kid's got. So
yeah, and like you said, not throw him to the Wolves, but I guess you could say throw him to the Bulls.
You can kind of ease,
because he's playing Dallas week 1.
I guess you can kind of ease, like you said, ease his way in. The preseason helps. You're playing guys who aren't going to be playing all the time. You're playing guys who teams are sort of doing what they are with Goff, trying to figure out what they have in people. So I think that's definitely a good way to do it. But you got to start in week 1, in my opinion.
Yeah, week 1 of the regular season.
He's going to be the future of your team. Hopefully, you got to see what he's got.
And you see the Rams are at home week 1 against the Cowboys in the preseason. They will be on ESPN. It is the first NFL game in Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum in over a decade.
Yeah, definitely I don't know if you want to say historic, but
it's a historic return. Historic
return, I guess you could say. A good stepping stone to sort of build on.
Yeah, week 1 we have some really good notable games, as a matter of fact. We have the Steelers are playing at home against Detroit. That's going to be on NFL Network on Friday. The very first preseason game of the year. Technically, there's 2 games tied for that, and it's the Buccaneers at the Philadelphia Eagles, and Washington and Atlanta, and that's Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so that's going to be at 4 o'clock here. Those are the first games of the year, and then we have some primetime games that are involved on Friday, the Steelers being one of them. You have Oakland and Arizona, who seem to play every single year in the postseason. The preseason, not postseason. They're playing each other at 10 p.m. Eastern time, so 7 o'clock here, the last game of that day. You have the Packers, who unfortunately are now playing their first game instead of missing the Hall of Fame game against Cleveland. Shut up. And then Saturday, you have 2 games that are going to be televised nationally of the NFL Network game, Seattle against Kansas City, and then as the aforementioned Dallas at Rams game. And then the NFL Network, and I'm sure is it usually on CBS, Houston at San Francisco. San Francisco.
Yeah, they always have local coverage.
Fox, something like that. So. Yeah, they have their game on Sunday, as a matter of fact, and that's a home game for the Niners. Speaking of the Niners and sticking in the NFC West, we'll move to them and kind of talk about their quarterback battle going on in camp, and that is the one between Colin Kaepernick, the former starter, and technically ending of the year starter last year, Blaine Gabbert, and the Blaine train that's going on there. And, Kelly has spoken nothing but highly in regards to both of the quarterbacks. Who do you think comes out on top of this one? Because we did see, unfortunately, it was a different offense, but we saw Blaine really produce better in the offense last year than Colin Kaepernick did. Once prolific Colin Kaepernick, who I hate to remind you, but you did it to me in the last show, who ran all over the Packers in the playoffs and numerous times that they played. So that's for the Tebow thing. What do you think about that, man?
Well, if anything, I guess with this whole controversy, I'm more confused by anything. Because if you look at it on paper, Kaepernick has got to be the guy for Chip Kelly's offense. Chip Kelly wants to do high tempo. He wants a spread offense. He wants his quarterback to be able to run and be mobile. That's exactly what Kaepernick is. But if Kaepernick hasn't been named the starter yet, then what is he doing wrong? He must still have the accuracy issues that he's had the last couple of years.
Yeah. So apparently last week in practice he threw like 10 straight incomplete passes.
So if he's still struggling, even in an offense that I would say best suits his play style and his sort of structure, and he's still not propelling and doing well in it, then how can he be the starter? I would not be surprised if we see Gabbert starting week 1 for the Niners. Obviously, they need to do something about the quarterback position, whether they maybe look for a trade next year, maybe look to draft someone, I don't know. But they definitely need to do something. But if Kaepernick can't take the job already in this offense, I don't think he's ever going to. So I would not be surprised if we see Gabbert.
Well, now think about, too, Gabbert he played at Mizzou. He did have more spread offense. He did have an open up. He would roll out. He did have an offense that he played in college that's very familiar to what Chip Kelly does. Not necessarily the exact same thing, and one would assume that Kaepernick is probably better suited for it. I'd say he's definitely the most suited for this type of offense Kelly's had in his entire time in the NFL, excluding, I think, Vic was on the team his first year.
Yeah, Vic started for Philly that
Vic was probably the best capable of running that offense. I would say so far to now, I would say Kaepernick's the best he's had, which is funny because the person that's run the offense the best out of anybody in the league has been the most lack of mobility quarterback there was, and that was Nick Foles in comparison to the other ones. So, yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't already claimed this, and there has to be something that we don't see,
Exactly. Like, I think he's got to have if he's not going to win this job, it's because he can't do what it takes to win the job in the pocket. Because he can definitely do everything that Kelly's going to ask of him outside of the pocket. He's had history with the spread. Look about his time at Nevada early on with Jim Harbaugh. They ran the zone read. He has all that covered. If he just can't throw it in the pocket, that's going to be the issue.
Well, see, the issue for him, it seemed like, is his lack of ability to read the defenses and make decisions based off his reads. And what Chip Kelly's offense has done and what a lot of Harbaugh's offense did was limit the reads he had to go through. It was one's here, one's there, and if it's not there, then he would run, and then I always say that about gadget quarterbacks is once you figure out their thing, the thing they're not great at, and all they have left to do is run, they're not very successful.
Exactly.
I felt like that's why Kaepernick was so successful, is he was fresh on the scene and nobody had figured him out yet, and you had to prepare for him defensively still. His next year, people started figuring him out, and you saw that he had that lack of decision-making once the play kind of broke down and where to go with it. If you rush 5 against 5 offensive linemen, unless it's a complete man coverage on the field, you kind of lose a lot of your running lanes. And if you rush 5 and keep one guy on the quarterback and then run kind of a cover 3, if you as long as it's not something that breaks that coverage, you kind of have most things covered in terms of watching the quarterback, run. So that's kind of where his downfall's been. And if they can take care of that, then he's all well and good. But that might be what's holding him back. It might be the ability to read the defenses. And you remember last year on the goal line against the Rams, he had Torrey Smith literally by himself on the right side of the offensive formation, literally on the goal line, and checked to a running play that didn't score. So there's going to have to be something to be figured out for him if he's going to be the starter, because otherwise I understand why he's not.
Exactly. And now I guess we'll move in. We jumped in a little bit about the Broncos, but I guess we'll sort of really dive in about the Broncos now.
Yeah.
Really, I'd say the most question mark of any Super Bowl defending team we've seen recently.
Recently, yeah. I'd say the Ravens after Dilfer's year had a pretty big question mark. Heading in, I would say, teams of that nature. But, yeah, the Broncos, who actually have the last game on Thursday of the first day of preseason starting. They have the last game of that night starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. here, playing in Chicago. Yeah, I like Sanchez. I've always liked Sanchez, having been a USC fan when I was growing up. Not anymore, but having been a USC fan and naturally loving quarterbacks most out of any position, I've liked him for a long time, and I thought he played best when he had a decently solid offensive supporting cast. LaDainian Tomlinson, Santonio Holmes, Braylon Edwards, and a strong defense, which is what he had both years he made the AFC championship game with the Jets. He has arguably the strongest defense in the league, regardless of some pieces they lost. They have the best, highest-paid defensive player in the league with Von Miller. They have a strong secondary that can play man coverage unlike any defense in the league. And they have strong supporting cast members where you have whoever it is going to be lining up at running back, whether it's C.J. Anderson or whoever it is. You have.
I thought he went. Oh no, never mind. They offered him to the Dolphins, but
they didn't go.
Yeah.
And you have Emmanuel Sanders, who had a great year last year. Demaryius Thomas, who had a good year last year. You have young receivers that are doing things for the team, regardless if it was Osweiler or Peyton throwing the ball last year, that helped them out. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think he's probably the best in position to start, but then again, I don't know how Simeon plays. He does have a year in the system already. So I think, no offense, he's probably a 6th round pick for a reason. There was something that people saw, whether or not people people are undrafted and go in the 6th and 7th rounds all the time. Brady, Brown, Romo, Foster, 6th round picks, undrafted free agents, There's a reason somebody saw that, and then whether or not they fixed that or not, there's a reason he went in the 6th round. So whether or not he lacks elite arm strength or he played at a smaller school or whatever, I don't know much about him other than the fact he was a 6th round pick and has never thrown a regular season pass. But I think Sanchez is the starter purely for that reason. Elway knows what he did with a good defense and a solid offense. He knows that he doesn't. You don't have to put too much on his shoulders for him to be successful. So, I think currently he's the favorite. What do you think?
I'd say definitely the favorite. I think they brought him in with that trade with Philly to make him their starting quarterback at least for this year. Obviously, Paxton Lynch, the 1st round pick from Memphis, is the future, but he's not ready yet. He's not ready yet. He needs to have a year to develop. So I think they brought in Sanchez to be that starter. That's super, super scary to think about because Sanchez, I think you've sort of seen the best of Mark Sanchez.
And the
and
very
you've
worst.
Really seen the worst of Mark Sanchez, too.
And that was all with the Jets because I feel like he played very middle ground with the Eagles. He had success and he didn't have success.
He did okay. He did okay with them.
But there was a lot more problems with that team than Sanchez.
Right. They were a train wreck. But as far as Sanchez, I think he's probably the best option right now. You mentioned he kind of can fill that Peyton Manning, Brock Osweiler role last year, not really asking him to do much, play good defense, hand the ball off. You have good playmakers on the edge. It gets off to a tough start, though, for the Broncos. They open up against the Panthers. You have a Super Bowl rematch. So I think he's probably the best option right now. Obviously, as things play out during the preseason, we'll get a better idea. I think Sanchez will eventually be that starter, and I think he's probably the most qualified. So a lot of what you said.
I think what's most important, regardless who starts for them, is finding a strong running back that can really help that team because so much Kubiak's offense is based off of a zone run scheme. You saw it with Arian Foster's entire time in Houston.
So many years.
Yeah, until you get a running back that can do that, whether or not that is who I said before, or if that's going to be like Devontae Booker, who they drafted this year, or whoever, it might be. Sanchez plays great off of the play action. He really does. He's an accurate passer for the most part. And I think that when you really bring out the better of quarterbacks, you give them, whether it's some guy who can't do many reads, we'll give him an offense that limits the amount of reads. When you promote their strengths, obviously they're going to do better. So I think the biggest thing for them is no matter who the quarterback is, finding a solid running back right behind him to help that because the play action is one of the biggest parts of Kubiak's scheme. Remember that Schaub just throwing it downfield to Andre Johnson for years,
Yeah, and
off the play action fake.
And I would sort of imagine with the Broncos, you're going to have a running back by committee, almost like you had last year. You have Ronnie Hillman, C.J. Anderson. You mentioned Booker, who just got drafted out of Utah. You have Thompson, who is from Duke, sort of a bigger back. You have more of the goal line. So they have a few guys that they can sort of rotate in and out.
Don't forget that I believe they have Cyrus Gray on their team as well.
Yeah, so I would imagine they're going to just sort of do a running back by committee. You see that a lot of times now anyways. So that's what I really think was going to happen with Denver. And I think Sanchez is probably the best guy right now to lead that team, which is just really scary to think.
I personally think he can recapture some of what he did well in New York in those early years.
I think it's definitely going to be tougher. The Broncos are going to have a bigger target on their head, being Super Bowl champs. They lost some guys on defense, like you mentioned, Danny Trevathan, Malik Jackson. So I wouldn't necessarily say they're going to have as good of a year as last year, but they're still definitely one of the better teams in the NFL, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree with you on that one. I agree with you big time. Okay, well, hey, we have to take our last break, and we're going to get into what's trending. So we'll be right
Can't
back.
wait.
And yeah, and Ben's always excited. I'm always excited. So we'll be right back. That was a great discussion, Ben. I like it a lot. We'll be right back at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
And we're back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. And guess what, Ben?
What's that?
Guess what time it is?
It's 11:08.
You know what that means.
It's trending time.
It's 11:07, but trending time. Yeah, woo.
Okay,
Excited?
who should start this off? Me? You?
How many you got?
Well, I really have 5 up here, but I'm not going to mention them all. We usually do 3.
Okay, I'll do 3. I'll
Okay.
stick with 3. You do 3. Okay.
All right, you go first.
No. Okay. Speaking of what we just finished on, Broncos quarterback, coach, actual coach, but Broncos coach Gary Kubiak, he did not say who will start on Thursday in Chicago, but he did say Mark Sanchez and Trevor Siemian would each play a quarter.
One quarter?
1 quarter each. So
Okay.
somebody the first, somebody the second, and then Paxton Lynch will probably play third, fourth. So as of today, in an interview 27 minutes ago, he said each is going to get a quarter. Hasn't determined who's going to start first, who's going to play the first, who's going to play the second. But boom, there it is.
So I think he's definitely being fair to both of them, giving them a chance
100%.
to earn
Yeah, this
the
is a
starting
very
job.
fair one.
That's definitely a good thing. He's giving them both a chance. It seems like he's not really edging one guy ahead of the other. I think depending on who starts kind of gives them a little edge unless they really screw it up, unless they really stink it up out there. So I don't know. We just got done talking about it. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, I think Kubiak's doing the fair thing and giving them both equal shot at it. I'm sure he has a little bit of an idea of what he's seeing so far in training camp. So, I mean, at least he's being fair. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's definitely fair. I like to see it. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so last night, as you know, the Giants ended up beating the Miami Marlins 8-7. You know who was a big hit last night was Brandon Crawford.
That was nice.
In fact, he had 7 of them.
Yeah, I literally was watching the game. Game started at 4-ish. I was watching the game, went to a movie, came home, and got to finish watching the game.
Yeah, the game ended up going.
Like I left
innings.
it in the 7th inning. Not like I saw a movie. I watched the 1st inning. I left in the 7th, and I came back after the movie and finished watching it.
Yeah, the game ended up going 14 innings. Brandon Crawford goes 7 of 8. It was a great performance. I mean,
Had every leg of the cycle but a home run.
He's the first player since 1975 from Pittsburgh Pirates infielder Rennie Sennett to get 7 hits. In that game, Sennett ended up doing it in 9 innings, though, so I think it's definitely a lot more impressive.
Yeah, but think about baseball at that time, too, though.
Yeah, it was a lot different. So Crawford going 7 of 8. He was previously 6 of his last 36.
Yeah,
so
he needed that game.
He ends up getting 7 hits out of 8 attempts. Prior to that, he was only having 6 hits out of 36 attempts. He ended up raising his batting average 13 points to 278. So he's still not hitting quite well, but after that performance, I mean, definitely a great thing. You know, Crawford went on to say, I got a couple to drop in and squeak past, and then I hit a few balls hard that found holes. I felt good. Well, yeah, going 7 of 8, of course you feel good.
Yeah, but think about he is as a Giants fan, he has a very, I know him as a very soft-spoken guy. You know, he's not always all about him. You know, he's very much, you know, I'm just happy I could help the team win tonight kind of guy. You know what I mean? Which wouldn't have surprised me at all if he would have said that. So, I was super excited to see it personally. I was pumped.
Yeah, that's definitely quite an accomplishment. When I read it, I was like, "Whoa!" Like calm down there, buddy. You're just wearing yourself out. You might not want to get any hits today because you did them all last night. But
right, I was thinking that. I was like, oh, he's got no more hits left.
Yeah, definitely a great accomplishment. Something you haven't seen since 1975. I wouldn't expect to see it anytime soon either. So 41 years. I mean, pretty good.
Pretty good if you ask me. All right, so my second one is, you know who, I think his name is Allen Iverson? You ever heard of him?
I think I heard of that guy one time. He played basketball, right?
Yeah, he played basketball. So, a reporter asked Iverson this week if he still dislikes practice, which led him to start another new rant and said, we're still talking about practice?
Are you kidding me? What? Why is
Who
he even
would do that?
Why is he even relevant anymore? Like, what's he
just
doing?
went into the Hall of Fame.
I know, but what's he doing now? Like, what's he even doing to be in front of reporters?
Don't know. Might have been for a camp or something he had going on.
Like, I know he just went into the Hall of Fame as well as Shaq just recently, but, I mean, that's definitely one of the best press conference rants we've seen. And for basketball, you don't see very often. You see a lot of the big ones in football.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the...
Because you get real angry.
Literally rant ones you see in football. But the basketball one, I think Iverson definitely takes the cake on that one. So
I'll give it to you. Yeah.
Interesting.
I agree. All right.
Anyways, jumping into more basketball news.
Oh.
The NBA has come out reportedly that the schedule for Christmas Day will feature a matchup between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors.
Okay.
So you had this matchup last year as well. The Warriors were at home and came out on top. I do believe this game will be in Cleveland this time.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, being the champions, you would assume so. Personally, I would have loved to have seen the Warriors go into Oklahoma City on Christmas for Durant's first game back.
I know you would have.
I would think that would be better.
Didn't the Cavaliers and the Heat play on Christmas one year when LeBron left?
I think they might have, but it wasn't his first. I think that game was either in Miami or it wasn't his first time back. But I think it was in Miami. But I would have loved to have seen Durant come back to OKC on Christmas for the first time.
And
That's
ruin
not
so
going to
many
happen.
people's Christmases.
That's not going to happen, but I think that would have been better. Because I would say you're going to get the ratings anyway. You have a finals rematch of the last 2 years. But I think that would have been even better. Okay. I would have liked that.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think you're right, honestly. Get a little bit of the Western Conference Finals rematch.
So reports are that the Thunder are slated to play the Warriors at home on February 11th, which would be the first game back. So you're going to have to wait a while. You're going to see OKC going into Oakland on November 3rd. So that's really, really early in the season. That's one of the first couple of games. But you're going to have to wait a while to see Durant go back to OKC. February 11th, reportedly. Okay. I would have loved to have seen it on Christmas.
You just ruin everybody's Christmas.
He can kind of be like the Grinch. KD.
I know.
And then obviously the Warriors end up losing that game and the Thunder win.
And the Thunder are all the Whovians.
Exactly. Why didn't they? Oh, man. They should have listened to this show before they made that schedule.
Yeah, we have way better ideas, NBA scheduling committee. Way better ideas. Okay, my last one is not fun, and it's not bad. It's just, Victor Cruz. He has a tight groin. He hasn't played in a game since 2014. He's not playing probably on Friday. Unfortunately, he now seems doubtful. He has re-aggravated his groin, and it's just another injury in a long list of injuries for once great Victor Cruz. You know, that year they won the Super Bowl the second time against the Patriots. He was really the catalyst of that offense the entire year, and you know what? Since then, it hasn't really been the case. You know, he's been hurt. He's been not showing up. Again, he hasn't played since October 2014, so it's quite a shame.
Yeah, he really that year exploded out of nowhere really early in the season because you had injuries to – I know you had injuries to Hakeem Nicks, but they had really a lot of their receivers. Victor Cruz was like either 4th or 5th on the depth chart, and then all of a sudden he was propelled
Hakeem, Manningham, Cruz was there. I think it was the year after Steve Smith left. So he was that real quick guy.
He was propelled to like number 1 on the depth chart right away within 3 to 4 guys getting injured. And that year he had a good preseason. So the Giants had got an idea of what they could have in him. But obviously preseason's a lot different than the NFL regular season. Mm-hmm. But that year he really exploded on the scene. And I'd say for that 2-3 year run before he really got injured a couple of years back, he was one of the best wide receivers in the NFL.
Oh, yeah. I agree with you on
and
that.
Now that he's hurt, he's just really trying to fight off injury after injury. I think you've definitely seen the best out of Victor Cruz. I don't know what he's really got left. And really a team that has sort of moved on. Odell Beckham is the future of that team at the wide receiver position.
And they went and got Sterling Shepard, who's a very similar receiver
out of Oklahoma.
as Victor Cruz.
So I think you might have seen not necessarily the last, but you've definitely seen the best out of the salsa dancing machine.
I like that name.
I just came up with it.
Wow.
Okay, so anyways, I'm going to move into my last bit of what's trending news before we close out the show. Okay. So Chinese boxer at the Olympics mistakenly thinks he won an Olympic boxing match, and he was heartbroken when he realized he was wrong. So Chinese boxer LV Bin went through maybe one of the worst nightmares in history. So he was having a boxing bout with Kenyan boxer Peter Warui.
Okay, I'll take it.
Peter Warui. I believe that's right.
Good. That's a good try.
But anyways, it was a bout that went down to the judges' scorecards. It was a decision bout. A lot of people do think that the Chinese man, LV Bin, did win the bout. But that was not the case.
In terms of scoring, you mean?
In terms of what they visually saw.
Okay.
So the judges' scorecards did not see it that way. So they did go with Warui to win the bout. But LV Bin initially thought that he had won the match. After the judges release their scorecards, they do the announcement. He heard his name. So he hears his name. He thinks he won the match. So he's like jumping around. He's really excited. He lets out a scream. And then until he realizes, like, oh, wait, they're telling me I lost. So he went from, like, the greatest reaction ever to just, like, totally heartbroken.
Oh, that's too bad.
And then he went on to, like, shake Warui's hand, congratulate him, but
he must be heartbroken.
He had absolutely no idea. Like, he was
too bad.
Just, like, out of the loop. It kind of reminded me of, like, Derek Zoolander from the first movie when he thought he won the award again.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was my first instinct against Hansel, which was played by Owen Wilson. But that was my first initial comparison when I read this and saw it. So, unfortunately for LV Bin there, he did not win against.
Yeah, that's too bad, man.
Kenyan Peter Warui in this boxing match in the Olympics. So,
poor kid.
Yeah, and he's pretty young still. I mean, he doesn't look very big. This is like definitely one of the lower weight classes. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, unfortunately for him.
Poor guy. All right. Well, I mean, hopefully he wins a match soon.
Hopefully he realizes the result before he gets a little too excited.
Yeah. Maybe next time he thinks he lost and maybe he won.
Maybe. He's like crying and everyone's like, dude, you won. Like, what are you doing?
He's like, I was crying because I'm happy.
Yeah,
that'd be good. So. Hey, well, we're all done today.
Yes, we are. Unfortunately.
But we'll be back on Thursday.
Yes, we will. Thursday with 2 more shows.
Boom.
I'm sure we'll be doing more of an Olympic update. We have some NFL preseason games that are getting kicked out underneath that day, so at the end of the day. So maybe we'll do a little preview. And then really anything else that comes up in the fabulous world of sports that you guys need to know about. Because we have you covered here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
This is true. We have you covered on iTunes, on Stitcher, on SoundCloud, on Google Play, as well as on YouTube. If you go to the Google and you search GSMC Podcast Sports, boom. You can find it, the Google. You can find us on Facebook at the same name, GSMC Podcast Network, the GSMC Podcast Sports Show. You can find us on the soccer show as well. Ben and I do that together. Ben does baseball. I do football. We don't do those together, unfortunately, but we do have the same co-host, and that is Jeremiah, and that is just as fun for us as this is for each other. And not to mention, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at GSMC_sports. Anything you want to add before we get going?
I hope they enjoyed the show. To the listeners, I hope you enjoyed the show. I thought we did a great job. I thought it was a good show, good, interesting topics. You mentioned a good debate about the NFL quarterback battles we have going on in training camp, and I think we did a good job, and I hope they enjoyed it.
You know what, Ben? I think and I hope the exact same thing.
That's good.
As always, I am Alex.
I'm Ben.
And we will see you guys on Thursday. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good Tuesday and Wednesday, and we'll be back with a brand new batch of news for you then.